Did you know that water is the only substance on Earth that exists naturally in all three states of matter? These are solid, ice, liquid, water, and gas, water vapor. Each state has different properties. At room temperature, water is a liquid. It can flow and will take the shape of its container. Liquids can't be compressed. If you cool water to below 0 degrees Celsius, it will freeze into solid ice. Solids have a fixed shape and cannot flow or be compressed. Liquid water will evaporate into a gas called water vapor. Gases can also flow. They'll spread to fill their container and they can be compressed into a smaller volume.
The reason why the three states have these different properties is because of the way the particles are arranged and move in each of them. This is called kinetic theory. By the way, we use the term particles to describe the bits that make up matter. They could be molecules in the case of water, or atoms in the case of elements like gold.
In a solid, the particles are arranged very closely together in a uniform arrangement. They're not still but are vibrating. All particles at a temperature of above absolute zero, which is minus 273 degrees Celsius, have kinetic energy and will move to some extent. The higher their temperature, the more kinetic energy they have, and the faster they'll move. This means that when you heat a solid, the particles will start to move more until you reach its melting point. At this point, the particles have enough energy to overcome the forces that exist to hold them together so rigidly. The particles can now move more freely, even though they're still in contact. The solid has melted into a liquid. If you continue to heat, the particles will gain enough energy to completely break the forces holding them together, at which point we say the material has boiled and turned into a gas.
Many people get confused between evaporation and boiling. Water can evaporate and form water vapor at temperatures much below its boiling point. After all, this is how clothes dry and puddles disappear. So what's happening? When water evaporates, some of the particles near the surface have enough kinetic energy to break away and form a gas. When water boils, it means that all of the particles have enough kinetic energy to overcome the forces of attraction between each other. So the changes of state that require an increase in energy are melting, evaporation, and boiling.
A gas condensing into a liquid and a liquid freezing into a solid requires a decrease in energy. There's one more change that we haven't discussed yet, and that is sublimation. Some solids don't melt to form liquids when heated, but instead turn straight into gases. This is sublimation. An example of a substance which sublimes is carbon dioxide. Solid carbon dioxide is also known as dry ice. If you warm it by simply leaving it at room temperature, it will turn into a gas. This is sometimes used in films and television to give a spooky, misty effect.
Particles are small, but how small? Well, one strand of human hair is 500,000 atoms wide, so particles are really, really small. Very easy experiment which proves just how small they are is if you take one tiny grain of a chemical called potassium permanganate. Place this into a beaker of water, and as the particles dissolve, they'll spread out or diffuse to colour the water an intense shade of purple. If you tip half the purple water out and add some more clean water, it'll still be purple. Keep repeating this, and it'll take you many tries before the water is no longer purple. This shows that there were many, many particles in the original grain of chemical.
We can also use experiments to prove that particles in a gas can diffuse. Place brown bromine gas into a gas jar and place another gas jar of air on top. You'll see the brown colour spread through the two gas jars as the particles of bromine diffuse. For your exam, you need to be able to use kinetic theory to explain how the properties of matter and changes in state can be explained in terms of particles.